25 years ago, a movie came out. I couldn't believe it was 25 years ago. Maybe you saw it. It's about a young boy named Trevor. Remember this movie called Pay It Forward? This kid in the story came up with a school project idea. Instead of taking a kind act that had been done for you and trying to find a way to pay that person who had done that kindness to pay him back, he said, what if every time someone did a kind act, they encouraged the person that they did that kind act for to turn around and do a kind act for 3 other people? That was his concept of paying it forward. Kind of creating a multiplier effect is what he had in mind. And so in the movie, he finds a neighbor who is going through his addiction, and he's in a bad place. And he says, you know, this guy's in, he says, you know what, you need a place, stay in my garage. He didn't even tell his mom. And it was in his way, it was a way to kind of help his neighbor. Creeped out his mom. She found out, she wasn't impressed, but it helped that guy. And the story goes, he is just so grateful for this little help up that one night he sees this woman hanging onto the edge of a bridge. She's ready to end her life. And he's in this renewed state of hope that he's been given. And he reaches out to her and says, look, don't do it. Man, I was right there. I got a fresh start. You can get it. And so anyways, he talks her off the ledge. The movie begins to show people being impacted by this idea of paying it forward. Another guy goes and donates his car to a parent in a bad place and just says, here, have my car. You could use that. Hey, I know it's Hollywood, right? And I know it's not always that easy and clean and simple, and it doesn't always work out perfectly. But that movie had a powerful, powerful effect. I remember sitting in that theater going, yeah, there's something to this. In fact, the principle underneath all of this principle that says, man, you got something you can give. You got something you can do. You got things that you possess that could make a difference in someone else's life, big or small. Are you aware of it? And would you do it? With this belief that you could somehow spread a little kindness into the world and that it might go further than just that act. I know when I think about my life, I have been the recipient of some beautiful acts of kindness. Times when people just saw me, saw my needs, and were just like going, hey, are you okay? I remember one time, I was having such a tough time with my oldest son. He was about maybe 14, somewhere in there. And it was kicking the crap out of me as a dad. Felt like a failure. I wouldn't have told anyone that, but I was having breakfast with this guy. And he just saw me in that place. And he began encouraging me as a dad. He said, you want to know what I see in you, Jeff? We took the whole morning with him just pointing out stuff in my life. He did some other stuff for me and my son that I'm telling you made such an impact on me and my son. I brought it up with him like 8 years later. He couldn't even remember. He was like, what? I did? I was like, are you kidding me? We've all felt that. I believe we've all felt that. You know, in all my years, no, go there in a second. Jesus was approached by a young guy. A young man, he was wanting to experience the spirituality that Jesus promoted. Jesus often had people coming to him, asking him, like, how does this all work? He was asked, like, what are the most important things to experience the spirituality, the deep spirituality that you talk about? In this one moment, Jesus said, you can lump all the commandments, all the important things, you can lump them into two categories: love God and love your neighbor. Love. Just love. You can do a lot of things, but man, I tell you, love is this component that is the foundation for all of this stuff. Man, I tell you, at a time when you look around the world right now, I think about when that, pay it forward, 25 years ago when that came out, what the world was like at that time compared to what we are facing right now. How love and loving our neighbor, that seems more daunting than it's ever been, doesn't it? Not just militarily, politically, within communities, within families even. There's just so much polarizing, so much division. 20 years ago, we began telling a story called The Castle in the Well here at Friends. It was a story that we made up. We wrote it. We wrote it as kind of a metaphor for what we believed spirituality really. We wrote it as kind of a sobering reminder of the point of this whole thing. Vince told the story last week. It was a reminder that of all the things that we do in the name of spirituality, the point of it all is love in action. Spreading kindness. Paying it forward. You know, all the years that we have been talking about this concept of taking water, I have never crossed paths with one person where I began explaining this concept of water carrying, talking about a true religion that takes care of the widow and the orphan, that gives of itself to the needs of those around. I've never come across one person who said, oh, that's BS. That's garbage. Yeah, that's the problem with the world, is that kind of religion. I never heard that once. In fact, every time, even the hardened skeptic, the person that walked away from religion said, I'll never go back. I'll never have anything to do with the church. Even the most hardened would look at that description and say, there's something about that rings true. If that existed, if a religion that promoted that kind of thing was out there, I could probably buy that. You see, I think within every one of us, there is something inside that says, I want to be about something that is bigger than me, that can look past even my own selfishness to see the lives of others, to see someone in need and do something that could actually help them. In fact, I think most, if not all of you here today got out of bed to be here today because you're craving something bigger than your own existence. Too many other things you could be doing right now. And that goes for everyone that's listening to this podcast or watching this live stream. There's something inside of you that says, there's got to be more. than just me paying my taxes and paying bills and hanging out and doing things that make me laugh. Something deep inside you says, I was born for something deeper and wider. Here's the thing. In reality, though, when the time comes, when those little opportunities poke up, surface, opportunities to help, to take water, often they ask for more than many are willing to give or capable of giving. That's a sad reality. Part of it is because some of us, we overestimate our capacity in that moment too. Oh, we want to help. We might see it and we go, oh man, there's something. But we underestimate even our ability in those moments. It's like, I don't know how many Instagram videos I need to watch of the dad skateboarder, who once was a hero on that skateboard and watches their kid trying to learn. And then at some point in the video, he says, here, son, hold my beer, right? Let me show you how this works. Man, before that guy can say fix auto, he's got 2 broken wrists and a sprained ankle. It goes badly. He gets on there thinking, hey, I got this. Metaphorically, I think that is kind of a picture of often when people walk out of here with the best intentions of wanting to take water to their world, they find themselves having to bow out real quick. You see someone in financial difficulty, struggling to feed their family and pay rent, and you want to help badly, but man, you're stretched financially. You see someone, a cause you want to give your time to. You go, man, I love what you guys are doing. I want to give back to, hey, maybe I'll get involved in that organization. But really, when it all comes down and they're saying, well, we got some openings here and we could do this here on this day or this night, and all of a sudden you start looking through your calendar and you're already so overextended. Volunteering kind of becomes a pipe dream a bit. Maybe you're one to just be there for someone who's going through a tough time, and you finally carve out time to sit down with them, but you're facing your own emotional or relational demons. And as they tell their story, all of a sudden you find yourself getting triggered. All of a sudden what's coming out of your mouth isn't really helpful advice. Your own hurt is getting stirred up. Before long, that person's trying to talk you off the ledge. They walk away going, I think their heart was in the right place, but that person needs more help than maybe I do. These are common scenarios with people that maybe in our vernacular haven't done the spiritual work that is necessary to create capacity. Building up their physical, their emotional, their resources, their time, freeing up their time, their financial picture, increasing the strength of that. It's just giving them the tools and the resource and the capacity to actually move when the opportunity presents itself. People's overall spiritual health is often, in actuality, much lower than they realize. Oftentimes we overestimate our spiritual health. But sometimes it's not limited health that holds people back. Sometimes it's something else. Some have tons of personal resources. They have all the time in the world. They have talent. They have money to truly make a difference. Down deep, they might like the idea of giving back, but to be honest, they just don't care that much. It's kind of a crass way of saying it. Remember a woman who wanted to take water. She heard about a young mom who was overwhelmed, never really raised in a family that taught her about all that needs to happen in motherhood. She thought, maybe I'll try this mentorship. She set up a date to meet with this young single mom. And the morning of, that single mom got overwhelmed with everything going on and forgot about the appointment, blew through it. The woman that agreed to help, she showed up, she's waiting, starts texting or whatever. When she realizes she's a no-show, she says, you know what, screw it. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to do a good thing and you're going to waste my time? I don't need this hassle. Done. A young rich guy came to Jesus. Said, man, I am following all these different things. What's the next thing? Jesus says, go and sell all your possessions and give them to the poor. I was hoping for something a little easier. I don't want the black belt taking water. I was hoping for the white belt. Yellow belt. Give me a little smaller assignment. The guy walked away going, I love my life too much. You can feel in the moment like the water assignment is a little too inconvenient. If the outcome isn't ideal, if they can't do everything on my terms, I want it nice and clean. So I want them to really be grateful. Like if I'm going to help them, they better really appreciate this. We have these conditions that we set up in our minds for some. And if it doesn't fit quite the criteria, it's like, I'm out. Not enough resources, probably don't care enough. These are two ditches that often keep us out of the game, taking water. And you know what? I suppose that if one believed that these little water opportunities in life that surface from time to time, if they were just kind of like add-ons to the spiritual journey, you know, if they weren't really what this is all about, just nice optional activities, then these difficulties wouldn't be a big deal. You know, so you don't have much capacity. Okay, don't. Say no. You don't feel like doing it? Not today. Move on. No biggie. Just focus on the really spiritual stuff. Just focus on the real good stuff. Those things will come and go. Here's the problem. We believe the point of everything in the spiritual world are these moments. It is how we respond to these things. Jesus told a lot of stories to make this clear. One day, he was describing, I think he was trying to make a big point, but he was like, you know, one day, after it's all said and done, when the dust clears, there will be the king. And he's going to take a crowd of people, and he's going to divide them up. You over here, you over there, you over here. You know, one side, he's going to call them the sheep. Sheep are on this side, and the goats, you're going to be over here. And once it gets all divided, Jesus said he's going to look at the sheep, and he's going to say, well done, you've got something beautiful coming to you. Because I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty. You gave me something. I was in prison. You came and visited me. I was naked. You gave me some clothes. And they're all looking at him going, I don't remember that. I don't remember doing that for you. And he says, yeah, it wasn't that you did it for me. You did it for the least of these. When you did it for the least of these people in your life, when you just thought, oh man, no, I couldn't be bothered with that. When some of these most insignificant little water moments, when you saw them, you paid attention to them. And when you did it, The king says, it was like you were doing it for me. I watched. I was there. I saw it. I got something great coming for you. Then Jesus turns to the other girl. He says, and then the goats. And not figuratively. Don't take this personally. All right, you over here. He says, I got bad news for you guys. Because I was hungry and you didn't feed me. He goes through that whole thing and they're going, we never did that to you. We would never have. He says, no, you don't understand. When you did it, when you turned away, when you turned a blind eye, when you said, it's not my problem, to one of the least of these, it's like you're doing it to me. Now, Jesus tells us as a story, but I think what he was doing is making one big exclamation mark. He's going, if you do something in this world, if you want to define spirituality, be very careful how you define it. Because in this world, in my spiritual world, the thing that I'm promoting, of all the things you do, it is these little acts of kindness and love, these little moments of paying it forward that seem to matter the most. He says, don't miss the point. And if you follow kind of Jesus' kind of interactions with kind of the religious leaders of that day, he was very worried about what was happening in the religious world. He was constantly pointing out, you're missing the point. Your religion is becoming about something much different than what I'm talking about. This is why here at Friends Church, you'll hear us talking a lot about a model, probably to the point where you'll go, man, I'm tired of hearing about that. But we don't really care. We call it the spiritual journey map. It essentially points to two very important components of your unique spiritual journey. Simply your I and your they. Now, if this is the first time you've heard it, I'll just kind of give you a little recap here. But these are very, very important to what we believe spirituality is all about. Your I really is about understanding yourself as an individual. All the kinds of things that you need for your own personal health. Around here, we believe it's critical that you know yourself. What your kryptonite is. Remember Superman, man? He was so strong, but man, you bring kryptonite into the room, and it was like it rendered him defenseless. We believe every one of us has our own kryptonite. We have things that cause us to get disoriented. Sometimes it's the kinds of relationships we're in, certain environments. For some, it's substances. It causes you to lose your way. It takes you off your game, and it distracts you from your purpose and your calling. You need to understand your kryptonite. Do you know what yours is? Would you know when you are at your worst? Even in a bad week, do you know why that week went bad? Many people will roll through weeks having the worst. They were out of sorts. They were not acting their best. No love coming out of them, or very little. But they couldn't really look back and go, what the heck was that all about? Knowing your eye says, what just happened here? Not only knowing your kryptonite, but your vitamins, the things that recharge and re-energize you. What are they? And are you being mindful to make sure that you're taking your vitamins? You need time alone? Maybe you're more of an introvert. You're going to need to recharge. Are you taking that time? If you're more extroverted, are you making room and space for the people in your life? Recharge your battery. Are you getting enough sleep? Can you tell when you are running low in certain areas? Are you aware of your gauges? And when you got a warning light going on, saying, I'm pushing it too hard. You see, the more you understand who you are and what you need, or what you need to avoid, and you're able to kind of monitor these levels, your personal capacity starts rising. And we believe it's out of your personal capacity that you then have the ability to start looking around saying, hey, where's some water I can take? How many would say that in terms of you've done some work there? You'd say, I feel like when it comes to I got a good beat on things. Like I don't get run down. I was talking to someone this morning. They were saying, actually, I'm pretty strong in that area. I pay attention to my gauges. I don't get caught many times where I've focused on other things too much, and I've led myself down. See, I was looking at them, and I was envious, because in all honesty, I don't, throughout my life, have had a poor sense of I've, for a number of reasons, and that I've talked about, I have often neglected my own needs. I have often immersed myself in what others are needing. We start having a political conversation. I'm sitting there and I'm watching, reading the room, figuring out where they are at, and we'll go there. I don't need to assert my political opinions. I don't want that fight or potential argument or whatever. And so I become a chameleon at times throughout my life. Sometimes when someone's in need, I'll just write that, hey, let me help. Let me jump in. Let me do that. And then my eye takes the hit. I end up unhealthy, spent. Years ago, I got involved with a snowboard association. My son was snowboarding competitively, and the board of this association was in trouble, whatever. I jump in. And I'm going, hey, I'm just being a responsible parent like every other. Hey, we'll jump in. I end up being so involved in this frickin' organization. 3 years after, my son's not even competing locally. I'm president of this frickin' organization. It is consuming hours and hours of my time. Recruiting. Now, we did lots of great things, but I got to the point where I was so resentful. No one's sitting there going, hey, Jeff, you got to do less here. Come on, here, let me grab a shovel. No way, man. And I'm, sense of I. Healthy sense of I. Not just knowing what you need, but being able to advocate for it. Being able to ask others. Communicating what you're needing. On the other side, what I found out is that there's the I and then there's the they. Well, I got a real healthy sense of they. Oh, man. These are the people in our lives that, for whatever reason, are the main characters in our story. These are your family, your friends. Who are they that's in your circle of influence and concern? Your spouse, your partner, and maybe it's neighbors, coworkers, employers, and clients you're working for. People, sometimes you just randomly cross paths with. That cashier at the Costco who you strike up a conversation with, they could be part of your they. It could be a group of people that you hear about through the news in another part of the world that for whatever reason you feel deeply for, part of your they. When you begin to notice these people, you pay attention not just to their name, but you begin to see them at a deeper level than just the surface. The things they care about and value deeply. When you see their needs and their struggles, when you can actually feel what they might be feeling at different times. From a young age, my parents went through a divorce. From a young age, I would be a part of a community like this, and I would be out with a bunch of kids, students, big youth group we had. And I would hear about another kid who comes from a divorced family. I would just automatically start feeling something for that kid. As a leader, much later on, I would lean into them. They would say things that I would remember. And I would care. I would feel so deeply for them. It was like I became their greatest ally. I would watch out for that kid. I would make sure that they come on. And, man, the events where parents were needed, I was always going, wait, there are kids that won't have a parent come into this thing. Like, there was just certain parts of my life lent me easily to the they. And I know there's people in this room who would be maybe more sensitive to the people around you. And it's funny, when you see these people at a deeper level, man, it allows the care factor to go up. There's times where Scripture talk about Jesus. He would show up and he would start looking through the crowd, and it was like, it said he felt for them. There was this compassion that would just move over him, and it would motivate him to do things. When you can see people beyond kind of surface level, something changes with your care factor. This is the they. And if you have a very developed sense of they, it's easy to involve yourself in all kinds of water projects. You can jump in with reckless abandon because you know that there's a real legitimate need there and you want to help. The problem is if you have an overdeveloped sense of they and an underdeveloped sense of I, you end up like me, resentful and burnt out, right? It's just like, I can't do all of this. I'm giving. I got nothing left. If you have an overdeveloped sense of I with an underdeveloped sense of they, you can actually take very good care of yourself, but you go pass to the opportunities as they come by. Because perhaps the level of care for those people is lower. Now, that might be just a real oversimplification of the whole thing, but you get why a healthy sense of I balanced with a healthy sense of they can lead to a real beautiful spirituality. And when you start harmonizing these two, what ends up happening is you can take care of yourself, you have a healthy sense of boundaries with your I, but then you also recognize, hey, it's not all about me. And you start giving and helping other people while asking them to help you. That's when we get to the we. That's where capacity gets built. That's where real sense of horsepower comes from. Our greatest water carriers in our community right now are people, we watch the we moments happening all the time in their relationships, in their marriages, with their kids. They're constantly learning how to say yes at times and no at other times in such a skillful way. They get to the point where they just have reserves. They have enough so that when the moment calls, they look out and they go, I want to give to something. Let me tell you something. When you look at that map, could you throw that map back up there? When you look at that map, because this is in fluctuation, right? So for me, I would find myself every now and then, my unhealthiest, I'm at the bottom of the they circle, the them circle. I'm giving myself recklessly. But when I start spotting these patterns, I start moving up and over. I start saying no to certain things. Saying, no, someone else is going to have to do that. I'm really sorry. Where would you find yourself on this map most days? How much How strong is your eye? How strong is your they? Do you know what your pattern is even? If you were to look at your life and say, what ditch do I most easily, if I'm not paying attention, do I steer into? And how often do you end up kind of circling into the middle where you feel like I'm balancing me, I'm in a good place, and yet I am aware of some of this stuff going on around me, and I'm finding the capacity to be able to give of myself beyond to my kids, to my marriage, coworkers. Well, let me ask you that. How often do you find yourself just with your head up looking for those moments? When was your last moment? No judgment. You can ask yourself that question. When was your last moment you saw something, you went, I think that's an opportunity for me to step out and help, to give. Folks, that's the point. Those are the moments we are pushing, as Friends Church, pushing you toward. Because we believe that's the heart of this whole thing. And if we're not, by what we're doing around here, talking about what we're doing, we're not leading you into those moments more and more, then we are playing a bit of a game. And it's the game that we never wanted to play. That's why we kept talking about water carrying and the castle in the well. We believe the water was meant to be shared. But if you're not healthy, if you're not personally building your capacity, and if you don't care on the other side, then it just doesn't happen. It's great intentions with zero follow-through. When someone says they want to live a more spiritual life, there's people that walk in our church going, hey, what are you about? We say, well, this is what we're really, we're looking for love in action. We're wanting to motivate people to do something with their life that makes a positive impact in the world around them. We want to help them. We're not building martyrs. We're not saying give up your life, give up everything. You're going to hate it, but man, someone else is going to love it. We're not asking for that. We're saying you've got something that you were designed to give away, and it's going to grow rancid and stagnant if you don't get it out. And so we're going to challenge you to find venues, opportunities to give it away. And in the process, we're going to learn, we're going to figure out how to help you grow your own capacity. All right. I started off saying, you're here for a reason. You didn't get out of bed and show up here just to be entertained. We're not that entertaining. We believe you're here to make a difference. We believe you're here because your life was meant to be about something more than just yourself. And if you're going, whoa, that's news to me. Newsflash. This year at Friends Church, we are going to push and prod. We call this a spiritual gym. We want you to come in and wrestle deeply with what stands in your way of finding that capacity, that health, that care factor to be able to start spotting not just the momentary, random, spontaneous water opportunities to just help someone, but actual life-giving causes that you and your wiring and your personality, everything about you was designed to be able to give away. I'm telling you, when you get into that place, nothing like it. I think that's why you're here. So, the question I have for you this week that I would challenge you to consider. Where do you find yourself on your map? What are your patterns? Are you more an I person? More of a they person? And what's your pattern toward we? What do you need to do? There could be tangible steps this week. Is it just working toward your own personal capacity? Or is it actually just investing yourself, being able to see the people around you? Allowing the care, the who gives a shit factor to grow. Excuse my French. I hope you think deeply about that question. May we as a church community never get confused about the point of all of this. May we never get foggy about that. People say, well, why do you go to church? I hope you think deeply about that answer. For me, I go to the spiritual gym to increase my capacity and my care factor so that my life is ready to respond to those moments in my life that will make my world beautiful. And I'm telling you, when I'm on my game, there is nothing more energizing, nothing more thrilling, intoxicating to be a part of than a true religion. That's my prayer for you this week. Next week, we jump into a series about the Bible. You got questions about it? Some people love it when we talk about the Bible. Some people, well, yeah, no. Vince is saying, no, we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it yet. Yes, thank you. Actually, next week, we got a Love Your Neighbor service. Yeah, sorry, almost led you astray right there, all right? Next week is a standalone service that's going to be truly engaging, meaningful. We step inside the world of a transgender person who's a part of our community to understand more. The whole transgender conversation has taken some wicked, ugly turns in the news, in society, and we think it would be so beautiful to bring us back to real people who are caught in the middle of that conversation. Because sometimes, you know what? You start listening to too much stuff and it gets so removed from real life. Next week, you won't want to miss that. Okay, that's all I got. Have a great week, everyone. All right?